Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today I'm very excited to talk to you about the new monthly update for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. This is a substantial patch that is probably my favorite patch the game has seen so far. This one changes performance, it adds new weapons, and it changes up some basic dynamics of the gameplay, plus it adds some cool weather effects. Now, if Bluehole is happy with the performance of this patch on the test server yesterday, they will be launching the patch live today for everybody on vanilla, and this is going to be a substantial upgrade. When I played yesterday, my performance was considerably better than it's ever been before. I was getting 10, maybe 20 FPS boost. Every now and then I would see a little bit of a rogue FPS drop, but for the most part my frames were substantially higher than they used to be. Character models have been optimized, vehicles have been optimized, weapon animations have been optimized, plenty of weather effects have also been optimized or messed with, including sound effects and UI elements, all in the name of client performance. In addition to that, there's also been server performance improvements, which includes reducing the amount of network traffic that the game needs to send. At least on the test server, the game has felt more solid than I think it ever has before, which is really good. It's one of the main things PUBG has really needed to sort of push itself into the next tier of gaming, is solid network performance and a more reliable frame rate. There's still more work I think that needs to be done. There's definitely some frame jumping here and there, but overall it's in a very good place performance-wise compared to anywhere it's been in the last 3 months. Now, aside from the performance enhancements, one of my favorite new things in this patch is the fact that they've added a few new weather effects, one of which is just straight up called clear skies. There's no clouds in the sky, it's very bright and sunny, everything is well illuminated, and it feels like also the game got a bit of a saturation bump, or at least they ramped it up a bit for this game mode. It makes everything look great, people are much easier to see, and I just enjoy playing in this weather effect a lot. They've also added sunset and they've modified the rainy weather effect a bit too. I gotta say I'm not a huge fan of the sunset time zone. It looks cool from a portrait or a painting perspective. If you're just gonna grab a screenshot, it might look nice, but for actual gameplay I find it really mutes the color tones, makes everything harder to see, and I just didn't enjoy it quite so much. But regardless of how you feel about each different visual style for the weather effects, there's going to be a bunch of them, so you at least have a bit of variety between now and whenever they launch the future maps. Now, the two new weapons added to the game look like total beasts. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to actually use the Groza in a match. I picked it up on the table pre-round. It's got an incredibly high rate of fire, almost zero recoil. I imagine it's absolutely going to rip people apart. Seems like it could be the best assault rifle in the game. Again, I haven't had extensive time to test it at longer ranges. There's no official shooting range in the game yet, so it's kind of hard to do that. And since it can only be found in a care package, it does make it somewhat difficult to obtain. Also, the Glock 18C has been added to the game. Again, I wasn't able to find one of these yet. I think it's probably the least common pistol in the game, but it does come with a full auto firing mode, and if you get an extended mag, it can hold about 25 rounds. So it's definitely a good substitute for something like a micro Uzi in close quarters, and it counts as your sidearm. Also, if you're tired of using pistol iron sights, you can now equip a standard red dot sight on most of the sidearms in the game, which is really cool. It looks really good in game. It's also a good way to store a red dot sight. You cannot use a hollow sight on a pistol, only the red dot sight. And so it's a good way to get it out of your inventory and not have it take up any inventory. So it makes a lot more sense now to pick up a sidearm early game and use it just as a means for carrying an extra red dot if you want one. The UMP, which has become kind of a fan favorite in-game in terms of SMGs, has gotten a little bit of a recoil bump, but also it's got a new firing mode, which is burst fire. I used it in-game by accident a bit because I forgot that you have to switch between 3 firing modes. It seems okay right now. The Vector also got a burst fire mode. The Vector's burst fire only shoots 2 rounds, so be aware of that, but I think it shoots them much more accurately. The loot tables have been adjusted quite a bit. In fact, they fixed a bug which was causing a lot of similar items to pop up in the same locations. So hopefully you won't find as many duplicates now. The loot game seems to be better, I think, overall. You'll still run into plenty of situations where two players run into a building, one player gets a gun, the other player doesn't, or you run into adjacent buildings and one will have 3 weapons in it and the other one won't have any. That's just going to happen in this game, unfortunately. The only way to try and balance it out is put a gun in every building, which I think feels a little bit out of place. So there's still going to be those funny moments that happen, or kind of annoying moments that happen, but generally speaking, I think the loot table is a bit better. And when it actually comes to looting, now when you hit F over an item, your character will bend down and pick it up much faster than they did before, and you won't stop in place. So you can keep moving while looting using the F key instead of opening your inventory. I think this allows you to have both an inventory system and an F key system, where F really isn't going to slow you down that much compared to inventory. In fact, it might be faster in certain situations. And so this is a really good upgrade. It makes the game feel a little bit more dynamic. In addition to that, when reloading a weapon, like say a pump action shotgun where you have to reload shells individually, or the revolver, say early game, it's the only pistol you find and you're reloading it, you're not going to be stopped from opening doors mid-reload. You can cancel the reload by just hitting F on a door and it'll open that door, and then you can resume your reload after that. So this is a really nice upgrade. Makes the game feel a little bit less clunky. Also, now when you're trying to split a stack of items, say you need to give a teammate a med pack or a boost or something like that, when you drag an item out of your inventory, the default quantity will be set to 1. This should speed up the process immensely rather than having to type it in every single time. Most of the time you just want to drop 1 item for your teammate, and if you need to drop 2, you can just control click and drag it twice rather than even having to type in the number 2. It'd probably be faster. One of the most substantial changes to the overall gameplay and the PUBG meta is the way that the new player area spawns or is chosen. So there's always a new circle that's going to appear within the current play area that you're in. Well, it used to have a much higher chance of spawning in the center of the circle you were already in, so it made a lot of sense to constantly play circle center. Well, this time around the circle has a much higher chance of spawning on the perimeter, or rather the chances are equal. So if it's going to spawn on the perimeter 4 times, it might also spawn in the center once or something like that. So it's basically going to mean that if you just go circle center the whole time, your chances of being in the next circle, or at least being in the center of the next circle, aren't always going to be super high. It can still happen, but ultimately this is going to mean that camping is only going to last you so long, and then you're going to have to move along. It's going to force players to move a bit more, which is really great, because honestly I can't stand the quantity of camping in this game. It bores me a lot, and if the game forces you out of those situations more, that's good news for me. We're getting a little bit more building destructibility this time around. A lot of those wood cabins that you would see in the middle of the forest or a field, many of them are destructible now. Some of them have been turned into concrete cabins, and you'll know that because they look like concrete and you can't destroy them anymore, but some of them are also wood. They don't have the roofs anymore. They don't really make good camping spots, but they can be blown up with grenades. You can shoot through them with an assault rifle or any sort of weapon, and you can even drive right through them with a car. It's kind of cool seeing more destructible objects in each world. I hope they try and push this system a bit further and add more and more destruction over time, especially some of those windowsills or bars in the windows. Those kind of things would be great if you could just destroy them with 1 or 2 shots. Vehicles will now also spawn facing a random direction. Before, they always spawned facing east, and this would let you know usually if the vehicle had been used by another player already. This time they're spawned facing random directions, so it's going to be much harder to tell if a vehicle has been previously used, whether or not it's an indicator as to a player being nearby. Usually you can tell as to where the vehicle is located. They'll usually still spawn next to a road or in a garage or something like that, but it's just going to make it a little bit trickier. Now there's plenty of other bug fixes and little performance tweaks and whatnot in this patch. Overall, I think this is probably the most substantial patch I've seen in PUBG so far. It's made the game a lot more playable. It's fixed a lot of sort of annoying little aspects about it, and it's made a big effort in balancing some of the basic elements of the gameplay. It's really good. The game is starting to feel more like a beta than an early access game at this point. It's feeling more fleshed out. I didn't crash at all while playing on the test server, which is really great. And I had no problem getting into games with friends and having a good time. Not saying the game's perfect by any means, but this has been a very substantial patch. And if you're the kind of player that's been like holding off on PUBG for a while because you think it looks too buggy, I would say this is kind of like one of the main hurdles it's really surpassed at this point. This next patch is really putting the game into a new state of quality, we'll just say. Again, not a perfect quality, but a lot better than it used to be. Really exciting news for any PUBG fans out there. A lot of people were thinking that vaulting might be added to this patch. I imagine there's probably quite a few more things that need to work out with that before they implement it in the game, but that will be the next major update. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Level Cap signing off.